He's like, hey, Dexter, whatever happened to our neighbor's dog? He realizes that he's not a normal kid. What's up, y'all? My name is AJ, and welcome to my literary lounge, where I talk about the books that I've read because I love reading books. Just gonna take a quick sip of my Summer Moon coffee real quick, though. And some water. So on today's episode, we are gonna dive into Darkly Dreaming Dexter, the character that inspired the hit Showtime series, Dexter. It is the first book in an 8-part series, so let's go ahead and get into it. First impressions with this book, it's a relatively short book, less than 300 pages, I believe 288 to be exact. Relatively short chapters, so it's a quick read for me. The cover itself, I'm just not a fan. I don't know. I like cool artwork and stuff on there, but I get it. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. He's an uncomfortable character. It goes with it. Darkly Dreaming Dexter is a story that follows Dexter Morgan. He is a blood spatter analyst for the Miami Metro PD. Face value, he's a normal guy. Easy on the eyes, brings in donuts, waves, says hello, all that stuff. So nobody you'd really take a second glance at, if anything. He's known around the department for getting these hunches when it comes to certain homicide investigations. His hunches have actually been so good that they've inevitably ended up in some breakthrough in some way or another for different cases. Yeah, he's just known as that guy who's really good at his job. And no one stops to think why. Well, the reason for it being is he actually moonlights as a serial killer. Yeah, it makes sense, right? A serial killer would know how to get into the head of a serial killer, ultimately finding more serial killers. That's the big thing. That's his big dark secret. No one knows about it. For him, he calls it his dark passenger, someone that's always there. And that's one thing you'll get in the story is it's actually pretty creepy how he talks to this thing, but it's cool. It's cool. Nobody knows about this, especially his younger sister, Deborah Morgan. So she works alongside him as a police officer in the Miami Metro PD. She's a pretty tough character. If you're like me and you've seen the show, then you love her character, and you also love the actress that plays her, who's Jennifer Carpenter. She happens to be one of my favorite actresses because she's been in a few horror films that I love. One of my favorite found footage films actually is Quarantine, and she did awesome in that. The Exorcism, The Exorcism of Emily Rose was also a really good one, but she also does good comedy stuff. You definitely got to remember her from White Chicks. She's the big badonkey girl. She throw Shamu back in the ocean. That's Jennifer Carpenter, and she plays Deborah Morgan. I love the character. She's a colorful character, really funny language, just kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Raunchy? Like a raunchy character, I guess. It's funny because she is actually in Vice. So she's in the Vice department, and she wants to break out into homicide because they pretty much just have her going undercover as a woman of the night, which she doesn't appreciate. She could utilize her skills a little bit more. She also wants to follow in the footsteps of her father, Harry Morgan, who's actually a very well-respected, very decorated officer, or he was. So there's some pretty big shoes to fill. Harry Morgan happens to be Dexter's foster father. He's Deborah's real father, Dexter's foster father. I say foster because he actually found Dexter when he was about 3 years old, and that's pretty much all we hear about it. That's all Dexter knows about it. That's all Harry told him before he passed away, unfortunately. So Harry, being the good detective he was, he noticed at a very early age that there was just something a little off about that kid. Something ain't right with that fool. And it doesn't help that he found a hole full of animal bones, like different animal bones. He's like, hey, Dexter, whatever happened to our neighbor's dog? And I was like, oh yeah, that dog was just yapping all night and just keeping mom up. He realizes that he's not a normal kid. And instead of getting him therapy or help or anything, he pretty much is like, hey, Dexter, you have this dark thing inside you that's always gonna be inside you. So instead of trying to get rid of it, we're gonna try to channel it in a way that helps, in a way that you can live, do what you want, but still not just be a terrible person. So he instills in Dexter what's called Harry's Code. Pretty much just a list of rules that's like, Dexter, you make sure you don't kill anybody that's innocent. Make sure you're 100% certain that this person deserves it. Most importantly, just don't get caught. Be normal. Normal people don't get caught. Don't get caught. Just kill the right people, because to teach the killers a lesson, you gotta kill them. Killing's wrong, so you should get killed for that. Harry's idea was pretty much, Harry had seen in his days as a police officer many bad guys slip through the cracks of the justice system. So in his eyes, to help Dexter kind of channel this dark passenger of his, he's gonna help kind of tip the scales of justice back in the favor of justice. Go after these bad guys. This is a code, the Harry's code, that Dexter kind of carries with him. He lives by it, he kills by it, and that has formed who he is to this day. So now Dexter and Deborah, along with the rest of the Miami Metro PD, are on an investigation. They're investigating several murders that happen around the city. All happen to be women of the night, and all happen to be dismembered in very specific ways, as well as the bodies have been drained of blood. And I mention this because this is a big thing for Dexter. He has an unusual pull towards this case and an unusual fixation on this aspect of it, because while he is a blood spatter analyst, and also if you don't know what a blood spatter analyst is, they're the guys that come into the crime scenes and look at the pictures, like look at the blood everywhere and try to piece together what could have possibly happened here. And he just happens to be really good at it. And you would think a guy that does that is pretty comfortable around blood, right? Likes blood. The thing is, he actually really doesn't. He finds it really gross. He has this kind of irk feeling about it. And so when he sees these bodies being cut up and there's no blood whatsoever, he actually is super interested in that. He's like, whoa, this is something that I wish I could do. This is beautiful. He describes this guy as an artist many times. And so that's kind of what is pulling Dexter towards this and why he is so invested in this investigation. And also Deborah, she knows he gets hints, or he gets hunches. And so she's been trying to break into the homicide division. So this is kind of her way, like, wow, if we can figure this out. Because like I said, she has been going undercover as women of the night, and they're the ones that are getting murdered. So then LaGuerta's like, okay, we can bring her in because she does this stuff, and she thinks that with Dexter's help, it'll help her get into that a little bit. All right, so let's get to my opinion on this story. So I did enjoy it. It was a fun ride for me. There was definitely some good description, very good dark humor, and that's the big thing. If you're into dark humor, there is a lot of dark humor in there. Very vivid imagery, which was nice. Colorful language, which was also pretty funny. It does have you kind of thinking the whole time. I will say, however, the book is in full first-person perspective, and so if that's not your thing, then you probably won't like this story. And for me, I did enjoy it for the most part. However, it did kind of drag along on some parts. I mean, it'll be Dexter just walks and stares out the window, and that takes out 2 pages, you know? Like, oh, I walked and I was just stopped in the window, looked out at the moon and just, hello, moon. Wow. Just bathe me in your rays. Let me feel it, and then you see it just cascading over the entire landscape. And it's just 2 whole pages of this thing, and you're like, okay, I get it. Yeah, you like the moon, Dexter. You want to kill somebody. It's like, okay, you're talking just to talk right now, Dexter. I get it. I sometimes space out too, but that's the thing, is I don't want to read about somebody else spacing out, looking out at like a damn moon. But it makes sense for the story. I mean, it's really all just first-person perspective, so of course you're gonna get those trailing off thoughts, but at some point it's just a little too much for me. So final decision, what are my opinions on this book? What would I rate it? Well, personally for me, I would go ahead and rate it a 3 stars. And for me, that means that I like it, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, at least not before recommending a few of my other favorite books. However, there's very specific occasions I would say. Someone was like, hey, I'm going on a long plane ride and I need something to keep me entertained, or something, I need something that has good dark humor as well as body dismemberments and stuff. Yeah, I would say, hey, Dexter's a pretty cool book for you. But for the most part, it wouldn't be my first choice of recommendation. I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed the characters. I still enjoyed the story itself. It's relatively close to the first season, and I think that's what it is. Every season's based off of a book. There's some stuff that's pretty similar, but there is a lot of stuff that differs. And again, I've saw the show before reading the book, so maybe that's why my view on the book is a little skewed. I just love that I love that movie so much. It's kind of hard to compare to it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still gonna buy the other books in this series. I just love the show so much, and the book was entertaining, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it. Why not? Alright, y'all. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed that review on Darkly Dreaming Dexter. Thank y'all for stopping by, and stay tuned for next week's episode, which I will be reviewing. Where'd I put it? Stephen King's Pet Sematary. Yeah, I know. I'm super excited for this. I'm already 2 chapters in, and well, I'm only 2 chapters in, and I already know I'm gonna love this book. I've loved the first movie. The remake was aight. But yeah, I'm a huge Stephen King fan, because who isn't? You love horror movies, you're gonna love Stephen King. So I'm super excited to get in on this one, and I hope y'all be there next time for this. Let me know in the comment section what y'all thought about the book. Is Dexter, Darkly Dreaming Dexter, something you're gonna get into? Maybe you want to check out the show. Do you know any other books that are similar to it that you would like to recommend? Maybe ones that I would like a little more. Yeah, just drop it in the comment section. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share my videos. Keep it real.